The Model Train People podcast is brought to you by absolutely nobody. Hey guys, just a quick reminder that this is our only April episode, and we will see you guys again at the beginning of May. So with that, here's today's episode. What you got, Guy? Also, I do not recommend toddler wrangling while editing a podcast. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. What's going on? Eddie and Sam with you guys here from Model Train People, and yeah, it's been a kind of crazy last couple weeks, but here we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're just
Especially for me, just
yeah,
with with just this past week alone, Sunday to Sunday has been nothing but crazy weather and tornadoes and floods. Like I had three tornado warnings on top of me within the course of an hour and a half. Three separate tornadoes individually. One of them that I didn't even I thought the storm was over. There was a section of storm that was starting to bow out. It was heading east into the Evansville area. It had been tornado warned before with a confirmed tornado,
oh
and they
no,
dropped it. And as the bow line is starting to come in through town, all of a sudden all my phones start going off saying tornado warning. I'm like, what? I look up and they had put one, and where the polygon was basically claimed that the tornado was forming right on top of my house. So for the third time that night, I'm jumping down into the storm cellar. So
you guys actually have a storm cellar? Okay, that's impressive.
well, a basement.
Yeah,
We
okay,
have a basement. It covers the back half of the house, and then the front half is a crawl space.
dude,
But yeah.
yeah, I know. I was kind of watching like I didn't realize you guys got. I know Arkansas got hit pretty hard, but like I'm terrified of tornadoes. Like growing up, like my dad lived. We lived in Montgomery for a year, so that's Dixie Alley, and there was a couple of times middle of the night that you'd get the tornado siren blaring in the middle of the night, and you got to go like to there's no basement, so you're basically just huddling in the bathroom praying to God that you're gonna make it through the night kind of thing. Luckily, clearly over here, and then after that, moved to Omaha, Nebraska. So yeah, I got a little bit of a tornado scar tissue there, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
have actually I've actually never seen a physical tornado in my life,
okay.
despite being in tornado warning
Yeah.
areas.
I've seen a couple
And
funnel clouds. It's actually really cool.
oh
But
yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, hey everybody. Yeah. So yes, this is probably more of a weather it ends up being a weather podcast more than a Model Train podcast with the amount of stuff that we talk about, just complaining about the weather on the front end of this. But going into this, I know before we hit start, we were talking about what we were doing for our cold open, but we're gonna actually just gonna kind of roll right into what we're doing tonight. So we actually have a guest we're super excited to have is Michael Small. Michael Small is the owner of YankeeDabbler, which, if you guys aren't familiar with the online space, YankeeDabbler is right now, one of the leaders, or at least they seem to be everywhere when it comes to online model railroading. Located in Belmar, New Jersey, right across the Delaware River from Philadelphia. Kind of a mainstay out in this part of South Jersey and this kind of the greater Philadelphia region. I'd argue probably the Northeast, but really awesome store, really awesome crew. And with that, Michael, welcome. How's it going?
Good, Eddie and Sam. Nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll shoot on tornadoes because I was here the last one that I had. The April Fool's tornado in 2023 that like went through Cinnaminson and then like the news is like going through all like the downed trees and stuff. Did you remember? Do you remember that or any of that weather that went through a couple years ago?
Well, funny that you should say that. It actually went through about a mile from my house,
Oh,
Ooh.
no kidding.
and it was not Fantasyland. They actually had a funnel cloud. It touched down and it cut a trough. And if you go out towards 45 and head towards 55 out in this area, you can still see the line this took through the trees and the woods.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
It
did.
was it ripped houses apart.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I
That
those
was not that was a very serious storm that did go through. It was not a flat plain wind. It was actual funnel cloud because you can see it from my house.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were getting ready to close. We're the house we're currently living in, like literally a week from closing, 4 days from closing when that storm hit, and we got the tornado warning when our basement, and then like our realtor was like, "Oh my God, are you guys okay?" Because she's Cinnamon located, and like we drove through where she was, and like it was crazy just seeing all the down trees and stuff, and then like going out towards like Del Ran and like following the Rancocas Creek, following that trail, and I didn't realize it was still there.
Yeah, we're over in but near Mullica Hill, and you could see where everyone went through.
Man,
There's still, like I said, tons of trees that are just twisted, and because it went through a series of forests. Luckily, it didn't go through all homes, but the homes that did go through it destroyed them. They had a couple that were totally flattened over
yeah,
by us.
crazy times,
Yeah,
crazy
I've
weather.
always noticed how it tends to be that rail fans and meteorologist storm chaser type people always tend to commingle together. Like I can't tell you how many groups up in Michigan I've had where like the guys that are in a rail fan chat group on Facebook and then they're also in a weather chat group at the same time. So yeah, it's always interesting to me.
And heavily data driven and research based when it comes to stuff, but I think that probably part of it. But
Mhm.
Mike, so obviously you guys have been around and in this area for a little bit. So I guess off the top, man, like what got you into like what's the background on the store? Like how did you guys open up and like where'd you guys start?
Well, we started years ago. It was always online first,
Okay.
and it started with a friend of mine, Joe, and I would just do a little bit of stuff, and then we would start selling trains on eBay, essentially
Really?
to pay for our habit. And at the time, I don't remember you remember the company Bev Bell.
Am I
They
familiar?
used they used to do custom Athearn cars,
Got it.
and they would do custom painted Athearn cars. And Beverly was great. We would literally go up to the warehouse in Crestkill, New Jersey, run around with a shopping cart in her warehouse, picking out whatever we wanted to take.
Yeah. That's cool.
And so it started that way, and we started on eBay probably 25 years ago,
Okay.
and it grew and grew from there. And it got to the point that we couldn't handle it anymore. My parents are retired and they're down in Florida. They
Hmm.
said, "Oh, well, you take care of the computer stuff. We'll do the shipping and receiving." And so everything went down to Florida for a while. They were doing all the shipping out of all the orders that we're getting online were going out of Florida.
Yeah.
Probably about 15 years ago, when we opened the New Jersey store, they said, "No mas. We can't handle
Interesting.
this anymore. We want to retire. We don't want to work, 60 to 80 hours a week that you've got us doing now."
Yeah.
And so they said, "We got to do something." And it turned out we found the building by accident on Craigslist. I literally looked at it Friday and bought it on Monday.
Wow.
The building, it was perfect. It was 5 minutes from my train club. The building had everything we needed, a 3,000 square foot downstairs with a conveyor belt and a 3,000 square foot warehouse upstairs.
Impressive.
And
Gotcha. Okay.
when
Yeah. I was curious about what you guys had on top of the conveyor belt up front. I guess that makes sense.
oh yeah, but like I said, years and years ago is when I was a kid. My dad always had trains with his old Lidl stuff,
Hmm.
and then he and I started an HO layout in the basement until I hit about 14 years old, and then I stopped for a number of years when I found Cars and Girls,
Right.
and never looked back for a while till I got out of college. And my friend Tina introduced me to her father Joe, who's the one that I started out with years ago.
Hmm.
And Joe was showing me the trains, which now had DCC, which was a new innovation at the time, and he had one of the first Digitrax systems. And all of a sudden, oh, this became cool. They could actually run trains instead of trying to just go around in a circle. It became a lot more fun to actually operate the trains.
Yeah.
Instead of, like I said, if you know the old school layouts, trying to throw power to move stuff around was a constant battle. Now with DCC, you could just run a train in any direction you wanted and do whatever you wanted to do. it made it so much easier to operate and enjoy the running the trains.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned that. So before we started this, I was telling you my brother-in-law was he just left this morning, and we had a meetup over in Titusville. Couple just a 2x4 layout. That one's in behind me, and then there's another guy, Dennis Colucci, who has it's a 1x6. We're a bit of an N-scale mafia that kind of sits on top of our group. And like my brother-in-law came with us and was kind of hanging out, and we basically ran ops off of these like two switching layouts doing the thing. And the like last night I heard him talking to his boyfriend, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I've never, like, it's like I didn't realize that you could do switching. Like I didn't, like, I thought it was just train going around a track. Like I didn't realize like you could sit and, stop it and go through. And it's like he's like they turned it into a board game. And but I mean, but it's like imagine doing that with like a DC setup, and like Michael, what you're talking about, like trying to make the power work and all that. It becomes, I think, a little bit more challenging versus like bringing like two DCC setups, doing that, making a lot user friendly on your phone, controlling power and stuff. And it really goes a long way, I think, to bring people into the hobby, especially in the day and age of digital capabilities.
No, absolutely. It's much, like I said, even now it's so much easier to start it than it was even 20 years ago with
Yeah.
DCC because they've made them so much more intuitive.
And you guys have, I guess, I don't know if it's necessarily unique, but definitely from what I've seen from walking into a store, like you guys have a dedicated DCC, side of the business, right?
Oh, absolutely. We carry basically anything from Digitrax, Soundtracks, NCE, TCS, and ESU and Look We
Nice.
have everything in stock basically at all times.
And you guys will also
And
do work on locomotives and stuff too if you need
we
it.
we do DC install. We do the DCC installs. We have a tech for that, and like I said, we do all that as well. Yes.
How's that side of the business been?
That side has been very good. Like I said, it's challenging. Some people don't understand, like trying to convert an old Rivarossi. It doesn't pick up well on DC. It's not going to pick up well with DCC. Adding a chip doesn't always make the engine run better. So, like I said, sometimes they don't want to hear that, but we'd rather tell them the truth up front and say, hey, look, this is not going to run right no matter what you do to this thing. And before
Yeah.
we take their money, we're going to tell them, hey, look, this is not going to run because these are the problems that it had originally, and putting a computer chip in is not going to fix it. And like I said, some of the other stuff that can be fixed, some can't because, like I said, right now trying to get parts for a 10-year-old engine is virtually impossible. I mean, just about anything it is aged out, and like I said, unless they're using the same gear sets, it's very hard to repair some of the older stuff,
Man, so I
especially at
guess,
HO and N gauge.
yeah, so I guess I have a old Bachman Jeep 40 that's call her a bookshelf queen, and I guess she'll remain there because she's like a
Yeah,
12-year-old engine. So
yeah, and like I said, it's the older Bachmann and stuff, and some of it is, can you convert it? Yes. Is it economically feasible to do it? No. You're going to
no,
spend more than buying a brand new engine with sound. Just because you can do something doesn't always mean it's worthwhile to do it.
yeah, I
So,
mean, for the joy of the friends you make along the way, right? And the
yeah,
memories,
obviously, it's a very sentimental. It was like your dad's engine. Absolutely, spend the money. Come in.
right?
We can definitely do something like that. But one of the things you don't want to do is spend $300 on a $50 engine, and then you could have bought a brand new one for that. And is it going to run any better than the new one? Probably not.
Very true, very true.
So,
That's
and
when
like I
you
said,
start. Go ahead.
go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say that's when you keep an eye out for DC locomotives that are on real cheap sale, and then you can DCC them as long as you know that that locomotive has its own DCC version.
As long as they're DCC ready, absolutely, you can pick up some great deals on DC stuff. As long as it's got an 8 pin or 21 pin, it's easy to convert. It's the ones that are the split frame that you have to isolate the motor and start going from there. It's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, kind of like a lot of your brass trains nowadays.
Right. And but at the same time, the brass train may be worth doing it because the brass train has a lot more value,
Yes,
depending
true.
on the one.
I've
But
been in my fair share of oh, what do you call it, where you um buying things and then reselling them at a higher price. I've done a lot of that with brass trains. My buddy got me into that, and it's now kind of become a thing where I'm always trying to keep an eye out for deals on brass trains and go from there and see what I can do with them. And he does the same thing. Although I
right,
missed out on a really, really good one a couple years ago, but that's another story for another time.
Did you call that
there's
flipping
always one that got
trains?
away.
Flipping, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, neither here nor there. Speaking of one that got away, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't you guys, but there was somebody else. I think you guys had completely sold out of them. Uh, Chessie U-boat, and that when we were sitting all up at the Edison show, because I know you guys had a booth up there. I finally saw it, and I'm a huge Chessie fan, and I like grabbed it, and I was just like, yeah, this is I can't I'm gonna regret this in like 5 years if I don't have it. Yeah, the wallet's gonna be a little lighter right now because I'm gonna pay a premium because these
Right.
things are disappearing. But anyway, neither here nor there on that. So when you guys opened the store, and I know you guys kind of what it sounds like started basically like the basement storehouse, if you will, with all that. But what was the biggest challenge initially in opening up and starting you guys' operation, shifting from uh purely like eBay based to I guess what you would call like your current brick and mortar setup?
Well, like I said, we always set the brick and mortar setup as an adjunction to online. We were
Right.
always primarily online first. The brick and mortar was set up to ship out orders. It was set up originally, like I said, we knew the store would never bring in enough traffic to
Yeah.
support itself without the online component. So we've always developed the online as the primary going forward, and that's always been the focus.
Yeah. And
And
you guys seem
We've expanded more and more online from day one. And we've gotten more away from eBay and went to our own website and developed our own site. We're probably on version 4 right now.
okay.
We've gone through, 4 major development versions. We're building out the 4th one now as we go. We switched over to Shopify about almost a year ago, and we keep building out functionality on that.
Yeah,
And
I will
it's
tell you as a repeat customer with you guys, yeah, the Shopify is a nice like you get the notification when everything's filled out and stuff. So
yeah,
I appreciate.
it's been a much better platform than like the first 2 iterations we went with. And like I said, this is the challenge is finding the right people to build the back end out because I am not skilled enough to do that. I can build out the products and build everything like that, but I can't build it fast enough.
Yeah,
So we have a couple people that are working on integrating some of our distributors to bring it directly into the website now to build out it faster for us because that's one of the biggest challenges. I can't build the product fast enough.
yeah. Sam, are you gonna say something? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, good choice with getting away from eBay. I've got to find other ways to sell my stuff without going through them. Just I ended up selling my Virginian and Ohio Gevo recently, and I put it on eBay just because I'm like, you know what, it'll probably get a little bit. I actually ended up getting just below what I paid for it, but it was kind of made up for in shipping. But then eBay tacked all of its fees on there and basically ate up any profit I would have made on it. So it's like anyone that can get away from eBay and as part of their business model is probably a good choice.
Well, like I said, the biggest. I mean, people don't realize that eBay takes almost 15% of every dollar,
Yep, that they
if not
do.
more.
I feel like yeah, it's the way that everything's getting expensive. But anyway, we'll get that here in a little bit. But so yeah, the couple times I've been in, yeah, you guys seem like you're constantly turning stuff out the door. How many orders a week would you guys say that you fulfill online?
Somewhere between 800 to 1,000 orders a week.
That's impressive.
Nice.
And then what's
But like I said, it varies anything from like a KD coupler to a locomotive or anything in between. I mean, there
right?
is no rhyme or reason to what you're getting that day.
Yeah.
You walk into, we're closed on Sundays and Mondays, so we walk in on Tuesday to, just a pile of orders to start pulling through. So Tuesday and Wednesday we're like one arm paper hangers trying to get everything out as fast as possible.
So in
Yeah.
other words, for the person that wants to support you guys, try to place your orders on Thursday, Friday, more or
Like I
less.
said, it really doesn't matter. We just try our best. We tell people when they call on Tuesday after placing an order on Saturday, I'm like, there's no one here. We're not Amazon. We're not here 24/7.
Yep.
And we do the best we can, but they are going out as fast as possible. Like I said, usually by the end of the week we've caught up, but it's a constant thing. Every time we go in, knock on wood, it's always a good problem to have.
Hmm.
And like I said, we do try, and like I said, obviously you said you're a repeat customer, and we thank you for that. But obviously, we try and get it stuff out as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And like the biggest challenge is trying to juggle through all the inventory of who's coming out with what and when. And like I said, we're ordering stuff now that's coming in a year from now.
Oh wow. Okay.
And like I said, they're doing the pre-orders for the manufacturers. Their stuff is 12 months out from when you order it to when it shows up. So all my pre-orders are a year out.
Yeah.
And that's assuming there's no delay on their end from building it.
Yeah, those are always the fun times. Like I pre-ordered, because and I guess it's time for me to say this. Motown Models. I guess I didn't notice this prior, but apparently they officially announced their 3D printed shells for their Grand Trunk Western GP9Rs
Oh nice.
that fit on top of the Atlas GP20. So now I can finally have my GP9Rs in N
There you go.
scale.
Wait, hold
So
up. I
I
thought you said
pre
that you were. I thought you said they like last week that they were doing that, or is it
yeah,
that they just announced that?
they well, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last on our
Okay, yeah,
last
it must
podcast
have been
episode.
in the must have been in the chat.
Yeah, it was in the chat. But yeah, they did a run of full HO ones, but these are now the N scale shells that go on them.
That okay.
And they said the deadline for them and when they were going to start shipping them out was going to be on the 31st of March. Well, here it is, April 6th, and I still have not received my email for my pre-order on them. And it's like, what's going on? Where are they?
Yeah.
So I understand that whole waiting for something that you really want and delays hit and other things happen and governments get in the way and everything. So it's always a fun and challenging environment. So I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I guess on that, Michael, without getting too testy on this one, because it's the zeitgeist, and I think it's the elephant in the room for everybody right now. But are you guys like working with you guys as suppliers and stuff? Are you guys envisioning any impact with the tariffs and stuff?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, they've done some preliminary announcements. They haven't really finalized a lot of anything.
Yeah,
A lot of it's going to be, but it's going to be when it comes in. If they change the prices, that's going to be the price. It's. I don't know. I know Athearn has announced a 10% price increase, but that's on the newer stuff that's being announced. So I don't know
yeah,
whether that's going to hit, and I don't know whether that's going to be permanent or stationary. And I know some other companies like Rapido is looking to have a U.S. warehouse, so they're bringing stuff directly in
Mhm.
from China into the U.S. instead of going into Canada and then back into the U.S. to avoid, I guess, the double tariff. Or so they're trying to work on ways around that too to reduce the tariff impact.
yeah,
And at the same time, I'm sure that depending on how long the tariffs last and what is going to go on with them, the manufacturers might move to a different location, like the bigger ones have done. They've moved out of China, moved to Vietnam or India or somewhere else where that are not as affected by the tariffs.
yeah,
But like I said, depending on which way our government's going to go, which no one has a clue to right now, and it may or may not benefit, us as an, American. I have no clue at this point with the tariffs. They are all over the map, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I was doing some preliminary like research and like, hey, like what I mean, it's 2025. I mean, everything's made in China or with Kato, or obviously being the exception being from in Japan and stuff. But I think like Lionel and like maybe Walter's like the only two that I think have like a built an industrial capability here in the States, which I mean, great for the O scalers on that, for all that and the collectors. But man, like getting squeezed out as an N scaler, it's like I really hope that obviously, it's the too early to tell what the ultimate impact of a lot of this stuff is going to be. But yeah, fun times of the modern world.
Yep. First
Yeah.
world problems.
What do you mean my train's going to be have a $90 tax on it? Anyway, um, yeah. So this is my hope that the pre-orders that I have out in other spots don't get too affected, but we'll see. So on the demand and different things, trying to like obviously you're looking forward and planning out well in advance. But what would you say is probably the biggest? And this is a question that was given to us by Dennis Colucci, who wasn't able to join us tonight. He's feeling sick. But what's probably the biggest area of demand that you see that you aren't able to fill?
Immediately or over time. I mean, it's like immediately right now is HO cork.
Okay.
It's tough to get HO cork. We get it in at whatever it's sent.
Yeah.
The last time was like the last big shipment we got was in October,
Okay.
and that lasted right through Christmas time.
Wow.
And we figured it out. We had 15 miles of HO cork if you laid every piece end to end. We had enough to cover 15 miles of track
That's cool.
in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and at the same time, like I said, I know we're going to be getting another smaller shipment in about a week because they were picking it at the warehouse, but it'll cover our back orders, but it's not going to cover enough to keep going forward. So hopefully there's more in the pipeline coming. But I've got orders at all my major distributors of cork.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, the hardest thing is like, that you've got a model on pre-order. Some of the time I have no clue when it's coming out. It's going to show up on my doorstep when it arrives. I don't know ahead of time. We'll know once obviously I get an invoice for it and they tell me it's coming, but until then we don't have time to track the containers coming over from every manufacturer. I know like Scale Trains will put out what's on the water. I know Atlas will say what's coming in, but there's no time for us to go through that every day.
Yeah. And frankly, I think like Sam's talking about his Jeep 20. Like there's a Conrail Jeep 20 that I put on pre-order shoot this time last year, and I was expecting to see it in May of last year. And then like the website that I was going through, it's like they miss it, and then they update, and it's like, all right, now it's like June, or like now it's like October. But Atlas says they've already filled it all. Just like, man, I guess I'll see this one day. But I guess it's like welcome to the hobby, right? Like you'll get it in the mail in 2 years, and there's like here's your $200 invoice. Thanks. And it's like, well,
Right.
dang, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and like I said, sometimes, like I said, I know, like for example, Bowser with the RS3 hammerheads, they kept getting pushed back and pushed back. They finally arrived. They're absolutely beautiful, but it took a
Oh,
long
yes.
time to get them in the store.
Yeah, despite the fact that I don't model, I mean, I should say I don't yet model HO, and that's definitely not anything that I do. Those hammerheads are beautiful, and I absolutely love them. I'm a sucker for anything that's unique. So, yeah, those are beautiful engines, and I'm happy that they finally came out.
Right, and like I said, a lot of people are happy they finally came out. So, but it's just there's any number of difficulties. It's at any one time, like during COVID,
Hmm.
the we got shipped left switches. I couldn't get a right switch to save my life. So Atlas literally like sent us a year supply of left switches. So we went out and advertised. We had the NASCAR sale. You can have any switch you want as long as you turn left. And you just had to joke with it and laugh
Yeah,
with
yeah.
people because that's the only thing they could do.
Well,
And they're like, I'm like, look, this is all they sent me. They didn't have anything else. So
well,
we
apparently
had left
that's
switches, and people bought them. And like I said, when the rights came out, they bought those too. You know,
actually the current world market case for Kato number fours right now in N scale. You cannot buy a right hand switch in Kato Unitrack for N scale right now because they're not on the market right now, but you can buy any left switch you want. So yeah.
the number I'm not as familiar with N scale. I do more HO. The N scale, that's the 220.
The I believe it's
No, hold on, hold on. I have a ton of it
20.
downstairs. I
Right.
just
If it's 20-220, we have them in stock.
okay. All
Not
right.
not a ton
Actually,
of them, but we actually do have them in stock.
I have the website pulled up here. Let me take a look at that real
yeah,
quick.
I was doing the same thing, trying to see like
Because I know the Y is out right now, the 222. That's the one we don't have, but we have the 210. I mean, the 220 and the 221, which are the left and right of the number fours.
oh, hey, look at that. Yeah, I haven't really messed with number fours yet. I do a lot of number sixes. Uh just between its
Yeah,
preference for space.
the sixes are 202 and 203. That one I know because we sell tons of those too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
the
did
2220. That's the left hand. So
Then 221 is the right.
I would guess so.
Yeah, well, the only one we don't have is the Y right now, but we have the left and the rights.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, it comes in and goes out. Like I said, Kato got hit really hard this Christmas. They didn't have anything left in stock,
yeah. They
and
it seems like the last two Christmases. Like I know last year, what 23 to 24, like trying to buy terminal unit joiners was a freaking pain. There was just out everywhere, and I like it kind of feels like we're getting ready to get back into that kind of like they're starting to get scarce again.
yeah, I know we keep about 400 of those in stock
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys for that because
because
let me
you're
tell you,
right, especially with DCC and the number of drops we need. It's like they're crucial.
yeah. And even that, like, I think it's also like you see the advent of like T track and stuff too. T track with that expanding on the N scale side of stuff, like that has got to be a driver because each one of those modules, it's if you're not adding, other legs and stuff on it, it's two unit joiners per module.
Right.
So hot demand. But yeah, anyway.
So yeah, since we brought up the concept of hey, we were going to the website and looking it up, that actually brings up a couple other questions that we had. Um I guess the first and probably the most important one because of everything that is exists on the internet and all the people that want your money legitimately or illegitimately. What would you say, especially for new people buying trains online, what is the best way to tell a legitimate model train website from a fake one? Because I've had my fair share of experiences where I will go to a website that looks exactly like yours, just with a different name, where it'll have all the same stuff, generic photos of the products taken straight from the manufacturer and prices, and maybe they'll say, "Oh, we got a huge sale going on, everything's 50% off," and only come to find out that it's a scam site that's trying to get your money. What's the best way to tell those apart from the legitimate ones like yours?
Well, some of the best ways look at the Google reviews.
Okay.
They find someone that has Google reviews and positive ones for the most part.
Mhm.
Obviously, everyone's going to have negative. There's no way around that. You can't please everyone, even though we try. Second thing, like you said, if it's too good to be true, look twice and ask around like a forum group or someone if they've heard of them before. But if someone's selling a $400 locomotive for 150 bucks, it can't be done.
Right.
So, like you said, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Hmm.
Now, at the same time, we're going to have a newsletter that goes out on Wednesday. We got a good deal on some Athearn engines. They're going to be at half off their normal MSRP. So it can happen, yes. Am I saying it's never going to happen? No, but like I said, it's one of those things. You got to be careful, like you said, because they can copy my website. They
Yeah.
copied Bowser's a couple years ago
Mm.
and changed a few things, and were trying to direct things away from Bowser's website.
Oof.
And it is very difficult to stay on top of them. And the problem is, like I said, they can ghost it and be gone in days, and your money's gone.
Yeah, and then it ends
So,
up coming up with some generic address at some house in the middle of the west side of Kansas City, because that's like somehow that's geographically the center of America. So you've always got, if it comes up as an address centered basically directly in the middle of America, probably not.
To be fair to that though, like there is a fight for hobby, right? Like I think kind of Michael kind of sounds like you guys was a eBay seller who has shifted to an online storefront away from eBay. But like if you go search where their business is, it's I think it looks like the gentleman's working out of it's out of his house.
oh right, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And like I
Yeah,
said,
absolutely.
I don't have a problem with that at all. And like I said, the main thing I'm saying is, if you look at Google reviews,
Yeah.
there's got to be someone, or talk to someone on the online community and say, hey, look, have you heard of this website? Have you heard of this? Is this legitimate? Ask some questions.
Yeah.
And like I said, they'll do the fear of missing out. Hey, this is only going to last a second.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I said, that's where you got to be careful. There are people out there that will try and take your money.
Yeah. I got burned kind of initially last year trying to buy some there's a online somebody selling basically like four or five in a pack Procore in scale 20,000 gallon propane cars. And this guy had him. He was the only place online, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, hit purchase. And then a month went by, and then 2 months went by, and so finally I emailed the guy like, "Hey man, where is this?" And like he kind of was like, "Oh, it's eventually," but like, did the research of like checking the Google reviews, and it's just like, yeah, this is basically it's bloatware. Like he's not gonna. So luckily, I got my money. I was able to get my money back, but this guy was basically betting that I would forget or whenever he like he had it advertised that his stuff was available and ready to go.
Mm.
But maybe it's just bad business practice. But yeah, though I should have totally checked the reviews before. But definitely a lesson learned moving forward.
Hmm. Definitely.
But
So anyway, doing a quick perusing of your website, one of the first things that I noticed is up towards the top, right underneath your logo, you have this thing called Monday Night Closeouts. You want to talk a little bit about what that is for people that may not be familiar with your website?
Sometimes, like I said, we'll get some really good deals from one of our distributors like Walters. We have some Walters mainline cars on there at a very discounted price from what we normally get. It's more of some things we'll find in the warehouse. Hey, we only got one of this left. We'll move it over there and see if we can move the locomotive or something that's been in our warehouse for a little too long,
Mhm.
and put it a little more aggressively priced and see where we can move things out. And like I said, the store's usually closed on Sundays and Mondays, and I'll be in there Monday monkeying around trying to catch up to things.
Right.
And I'll look around and see what I can find. But sometimes there are planned events and things that will go up on. I try and do it on a Monday, and it just started as a place to put things that we got a little too much of, or that we got a good sale price on.
Okay. And that sounds like a great deal, especially for the conscientious buyer that's budget strapped. It's like you never know what might actually pop up in there. So, yeah, and I appreciate you guys for offering that, because I mean, there's a couple cars on here that I'm looking at. It's like, ooh, I could use those. Those would fit perfectly for what I'm doing. So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on those for when other things pop up.
Yeah, just
Um,
to tout you guys here too. So on the Monday night closeout, last year, you guys had a couldn't find anywhere else online. Just happened to stumble on it. Was a DCC, no sound, but a DCC SBU 25 for like 110 bucks. And for anything DCC nowadays, like especially in that's at least 180, 190, $200 depending on what you're looking at. Obviously,
yeah.
with the scale train stuff. Granted, I think their stealth is about like 180. But I had to jump on that, and that was really cool. Like being able to grab that, and now I have a kind of like I guess what you would call unique because it's older stock, but it was kind of neat that you guys were going and clearing that stuff out, and then be able to take advantage of a sale pretty quick on that. So I appreciate
Yep.
it. All right. So kind of moving on here. Let's see. What would you say is something that you guys want to expand into in like the next like the next 3 years?
One of the things we're going to try and expand into more, if you notice on our website is lacking in pre-orders.
Hmm.
It's very, like I said, that's our biggest problem is we can't program stuff fast enough to do the pre-orders. So that is where we're working to be able to do that and have that available online to do pre-orders.
Yeah,
That's going to be the next major step.
good deal. Uh, okay. And then do you guys have like any stretch goals for like so three we'll call like five and then 10. Like what else? Like what do you have any other any goals on like where you guys want to be? Any expansion goals?
No, we're happy at our niche where we're at now. We're, like I said, we just do the Henry Ford method. We try and make our site better, ourselves better every day. We go do the best we can and move forward. But as far as expanding, no, we're not. We're going to be, the one store is going to be it. It's going to be the website. It's going to be the expansion. Is because with the website, we basically reach the world.
Yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. And on the topic of continuing on the topic of expanding the website, I noticed, and this is nothing to knock you, I'm just observing things. I noticed your search engine and filters compared to others. It looks like right now you guys only have, unless I'm on a somehow on an older version of your website, it looks like you guys only have the ability to search based on the brand of a product. Do you have any,
Yep.
is that correct?
That is, like I said, unfortunately, right now it is brand. You can manually search by road name,
Hmm.
or if you put the combination in, if you want a scale train, ES44, you put that in the search bar, they'll come up. But you're right, we don't have the ability to search by road name right now. We're working on that and building out the back end. But like I said, that is, like I said, one of the biggest obstacles. As of right now, we're pushing about 25,000 different SKUs on the website as of now.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I said, that's where I run out of time every day is just building stuff on the website and trying to keep up with the new stuff that's coming in through the door and getting it on the website fast enough to get it, sold and everything. But as far as programming, we're working on that and trying to see what we can expand out into that arena. But definitely we want to have a better search engine on the back end. But
Okay.
that is definitely something we are concentrating on in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest irritations when it comes to these website search engines is you type in, like, say I wanted to look something for specifically for the Southern Railway. I will type in Southern and it'll pull up Southern Pacific or one of the another railroad that has a Southern in it. And it's like, I'm not looking for those things. I'm looking for the Southern Railway.
Well, that's because you
It
need
doesn't,
more high hood.
what?
That's because you need more high hood.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like I wish that some of these search engines would understand exactly what I'm searching for a little bit better. But I mean, it is what it is. If it'll still pull it up, it'll still pull it up. Just have to do my own, I guess you could call it gold panning, filtering out all the detritus for the gold nuggets.
Right, and like I said, that's one of the problems we have when people come to the store. I saw this on the website. They're like, "Well, what'd you say?" They're like, "Well, it's Union Pacific." I'm like, "Okay, we have 10,000 cars upstairs. I can't. It's not sorted by Union. It's sorted by numeric by stock number.
Yep.
Right.
Without a stock number, I might hit it, I might not, but I'm looking at 10,000 boxes, torn towards the thing with the number. So
Yeah.
you've got to give me a little more. I understand what you're saying, but if you see like a stock number or something on the manufacturer website that you want,
Mhm.
write it down because that's very helpful in your search engine. Because if you put the stock number on most people's website, it will show up on ours and others.
Yep.
And so if you see it on like you said, Scale Trains, Rapido, or if you know their stock number and you put it into that search engine, you might hit it a lot quicker than going with Southern.
So in other words, for the common purchaser, make sure you've done your research on exactly what you're wanting before you go searching for it.
Right. We can always help you with certain things and show, certain, railroads and stuff we have downstairs in the actual physical store. But if you want something very specific, and we might very well have it, but without the right terms and stuff, I may not be able to find it even with search terms.
Yeah,
But
sure.
with the manufacturer stock number, I can find it within 30 seconds upstairs.
Yep, that's it's just it's all about intentionality. It's like, yeah, computers are great, but you have to be intentional about how you use them. So it's both a blessing and a curse for everyone.
Right.
So also on your website, I noticed you guys were out at the Greenberg's Great Train Show this past weekend.
Yep.
In Edison, yes, we were.
Yep.
Okay. How often are you guys going out to shows like that, and about how far out are you guys usually willing to travel for those?
We go to Edison 3 times a year.
Hmm.
We go down to the Great Scale Model Train Show in Timonium, Maryland 3 times a year.
All right.
We do obviously the biggie up in West Springfield, Mass.
Hmm.
We do there's a couple local 4-H shows that we do. There's one coming up at the end of April that we do mainly because it's the 4-H
Hmm.
and to support them.
You guys went up to Milwaukee this last winter, right?
Yeah, we usually go out to Train Fest. That's about as far as we'll go. I mean,
Like a
it's
12-hour drive.
like I said, the biggest problem is it's not so much the drive; it's bringing all the paraphernalia with you too. And because
Yep.
we have a 20-foot trailer that's packed to the gills, and we still can't bring everything.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the same problem that Spring Creek Model Trains deals with. They say they're like they want to bring everything, but they just can't. So.
Right, and like I said, I need a fleet of 18 wheelers to do that, and it's just not. Again,
Physical.
can I do it? Yeah. Is it economically viable? No. We go bankrupt within a year. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm a semi-truck logistics manager, dealing with my company's own small fleet of semi-trucks just so that we can transport water bottles from my town out to the adjacent cities, and it's a yeah, that's where some of our biggest pains are, especially with the mechanical expenses on that. Oh my gosh, those are yeah. As much as some people say, "Oh, just get a semi truck," it's like you don't know the cost of those things. Just be thankful that we have a 20-foot pickup truck trailer to bring you at least something.
Right. And like I said, it's like, and we always tell people, look, if you know I'm coming out to a show a week or two ahead of time, call me and tell me what you want.
Yeah.
We can set it on set it aside on one of the carts and bring it to you. Like I said, we do that all the time. Like I said, we have several guys that, right before Edison would call us up, we'd have it on the trailer, and I delivered a number of orders to them up in Edison.
Mhm. Yeah, and to that note, it's like I appreciate you guys going out to the 4-H fairs because that's something that I hadn't even thought of because it's like I've been to plenty of 4-H fairs before and I've never really seen anyone do anything model train ones. It's always the arts
Really?
and crafts or the animals or the canning and food stuff and whatnot. And it's
Sam, we
like
got to get you out this way because, like, yeah, there's like 2 or 3 4-H groups that run around. Because I know, ironically, like I was trying to go find New Jersey Southern at one of the 4-H. They ended up being on the shore, and I ended up like in Central Jersey, and it was all O scale people, and it's just like kind of blew my mind. I was like, all right, cool, same organization, 2 different scales, opposite sides of the state,
yeah.
but yeah, like there's
Hmm.
there's a pretty good Northeast is the mecca of model railroading. It seems.
Hmm. Okay, I definitely need to keep that in mind then.
I guess
So,
I don't know. I'm just a dude who's traveled a little bit, but all right. So we're rapidly approaching the tail end of this. So I just got one fun question for you, Michael. If you could have one model for your own collection, maybe you already have it, but like, what would it be, and in what road name?
The one I have is one my dad bought me years ago. I have an HO brass, and it's unpainted, unlettered, and I'll never change it.
hmm.
So he just bought me this brass steam locomotive when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that I've actually converted to DCC because it
Ooh,
was something my dad bought me years ago.
that's cool.
But I'm eclectic. I'll go anything from East Coast like Bangor to Rustic down to the I like the new, and there's probably some people don't like it, the new Kansas City, in the Canadian Pacific
Hmm.
where they mix the CPKC now.
CKPC or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah,
CPKC.
and
Yeah.
some people don't like that.
The
It's just
alphabet route.
yeah, that route.
The 21st century alphabet route.
Yeah, but like I said, it's my taste go anywhere in between. It's like I don't have any one specific road I like, fortunately, but
Yeah.
I kind of like it. And we tell people it's like, look, you don't have to have. There is no perfect railroad. It's what is in your mind, what you want to dream, and what
Yeah.
you can build.
Yep.
And
Or
anyone that
decorate.
tells you, like I said, my model train club does transition era.
Mm.
And more recently, as we've gotten into this year, the kids bring modern locomotives.
Hmm.
And some of the guys are like, well, we're transitioning. I'm like, guys, think logically when we started the railroad. And it wasn't us, it was someone else because this railroad started in 1955. I said, what was 1955? What are they modeling? Modern era, because that was transition era.
Hmm.
You got to let the kids run what they see. They're not going to come back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we definitely make sure that the kids can run, whatever they bring whatever you want, run it.
Uh,
Because like I said, it's like, some of the guys, well, we don't run SD90X. You're going to tell the kid that? Let him run what he wants. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, look, it's what's funny is, so what club is that? Just out of curiosity.
Gateway Model Railroad Club.
Okay, cool.
But like I said, we've been around since 1955 is when it started. And at the time, what they were modeling transition was modern era.
Yeah,
And that's become a lot less of an issue recently because we let everyone run what they want.
right. And it's somebody was having a conversation, like I'm not sure where it was, but like there's like the nostalgia, like it just seems like everybody kind of like models like what they saw when they were kids. So
Mm.
like the Gen Z, Gen Alpha modelers right now are probably outside of the anomaly of Dennis Colucci, who is firmly a 1970s Upper Hudson Valley kind of modeler. Um, like it's gonna be the Givos because that's what you grew up with. Like me being exposed to SB in San Antonio, and then the very, very tail end of anything Chessie in West Virginia coal country in the 90s, right? Like um Sam here with a grand trunk. And it's like it's funny as people kind of get into those peak, like again, like you model as a kid, sports, everything else, cars, school in your 20s, and then like that, the tail end of your 20s into your 30s. It's like, oh, I'm getting back into this. What do I want to do? Those things. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you have to, it's like a conversation I had with my wife a couple nights ago of like, how do we make things work in a relationship or any organization, especially in clubs? It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to win? Like you can absolutely be right and be like, you know what? Yeah, damn it, we're Pinsy. We're not like we're gonna be firmly Pinsy like 1955 on the the week after Easter. Like this is what we're doing. We won't accept anything else.
Yeah.
But that your organization is going to reflect who wants to model that. And if you're trying to grow
Right.
it, yeah, you're not going to.
If you're trying to grow and you're making it that narrow and that focus, you're going to end up with a party of two.
Yeah.
Well,
As opposed to bringing it out. And like I said, that's one of the things we like when all the kids come out to the 4-H. They run, like you said, T-track. That is a big thing at the 4-H.
T-track is awesome.
They have a monster T-track they put up every year.
Yeah.
And every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because kids build their own modules.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah. I've got another perfect example. There's a YouTuber by the name of Jimmy Lambert. He's got like 5,500 subscribers on there. And he has this series that he calls Tea and Moonshine. And it's filmed mostly on the Northern Virginia Model Railroaders layout. And it's a layout set on the Southern Railway main line coming south out of Washington, D.C. And he's taking these double O gauge British steam locomotives and putting them on this layout along with steam locomotives and mixing them with modern locomotives. And it is just one of the funniest YouTube series I've ever made. And it's all because these people are letting him put these British locomotives on this American layout, and it's got all the old school steam, it's got transitions era stuff, it's got modern era stuff, everything in between, and it just makes it so funny. And it's like, if it wasn't for that club letting him do that, we wouldn't have this series to enjoy.
I mean,
so yeah.
Yeah, it's like you see, like I've seen the video or like the gif of like someone's Bachman Thomas carrying like with the Gustav gun behind them.
Actually, that is in here too.
If you're not having fun with the hobby, like you're missing the plot.
Yeah,
But
it's about having fun, not trying to be all gung ho about rules. If you
Right,
can't,
like I
if
said,
you're going to be gung ho about rules, you can't have fun.
Absolutely. And like I said, this is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be enjoyable and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the second it's not, there's something wrong. We got to fix it and figure out what we did wrong.
Or there's a place and time and place and everything, right? Like historical societies and all that. But yeah. But all right. Well, Michael, we are sitting right at an hour. So I just wanted to say again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday. Busy schedule. Yes. I know, kind of chaos. We were talking beforehand with family and trying to coordinate this. So again, genuinely appreciate it. Please keep your say again.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And
absolutely. And as a parting shot, please keep your Kato wall. Like that thing's the best thing ever in the store. But guys, if you want to find more on Yankee Dabbler, it is yankeedabbler.com. And then they have a YouTube channel through Engineer Hall. We'll put both of those links in the show notes and on the video description on this. And then if you guys want to find us, remember it's Model Train People at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Spotify, really anywhere that your major podcast host is, where you're going to find us there. And then if you want to shoot us an email, it's modeltrainpeople@gmail.com. But with that, Michael, again, thanks again, and we'll see you around.
Okay, thank you guys. Eddie and Sam, have a great evening.
Yeah, absolutely,
you too.
man.
Okay.